Okay, Frank Bonada here for LowKick MMA. Joining me today is, I'm sure, a familiar face to many who watch this channel. It's Jordan Ellis, the site manager before me. Thank you for coming on, Jordan. How are you doing?
Great, mate. Great to be back, and obviously huge card coming up. So looking forward to breaking it down and speaking about, because there is just countless great fights on this card. I think just today we got another one, Cerrone against Jim Miller, which is just another great addition. So yeah, happy to dive straight in.
Yeah, it's incredible. UFC 276 is the card. First up, main event. The last Starbender is back. Israel Adesanya, still undefeated at middleweight, taking on Jared Cannonier. I mean, it's the right fight to make right now. But I mean, personally, I can't see Izzy losing that undefeated status at middleweight anytime soon. What about yourself, Jordan?
Yeah, for me, it's all about Izzy. It's all about how he wins now, because he's becoming one of them champions where he's not impressing. He's kind of coasting, GSP, just going to decisions, and he's a knockout artist. He's one of the best strikers in MMA history, and that's what he should be doing. So I'm really hoping he goes out and makes a statement and sets himself aside from the rest of the division, because I do believe he's like a couple level above pretty much everyone, and he should be really doing that. But when you go into decisions with Vittori, I think he could have done better in that one. Robert Whittaker, I think Robert Whittaker still thinks he won that fight, and it was really close. I think a few people do as well. So and I don't think he should be in these close fights. So I'm really looking forward to seeing Izzy go out and make an actual statement. And that's all the talk he's been saying, going into this fight. And I believe Cannonier is someone who might be open for that as well. So yeah, I think Izzy will win. No doubt in my mind about that. It's just about how he win. Will he play it safe, or will he go out and try and get a finish? Because I think Paulo Costa was the last time he really wowed fans, and I'm really hoping we see it again.
Yeah, I mean, I was just looking at his past 5 fights, and Paulo Costa is the only finish he's had in his last 5 walks to the octagon. The rest all being decisions, including the loss to Jan Blachowicz at like heavyweight. I couldn't agree more with the sentiment you're saying. It is starting to get that reputation as just someone who coasts. It could be a bit combined with the fact that the guys at middleweight, the top of middleweight, they are just incredibly durable. Vittori is ridiculously durable. Whittaker, I mean, has he ever been knocked out at middleweight? I don't think so. Apart from Izzy the first time, of course. But yeah, he needs to start making a difference. And like you say, again, all the talk has been about him putting off something special, finishing it inside the distance against Cannonier. Yeah, I can't really see what Cannonier has that Izzy hasn't faced before. Like you say, it is just how he deals with it. Cannonier hits hard. He's got some great leg kicks and whatnot, but Adesanya is clearly the better striker, considerably. But again, I mean, Cannonier hasn't been finished in a while. Very tough fighter. And now he's going out and talking about how he's going to sort of try to play a technical fight with Izzy. And we've seen how those ones sort of go in the past. Like the old Romero, you remember that one was one of the worst fights you've ever seen. But fingers crossed, if Izzy goes out there and tries to press the pace, really puts on him, which maybe is a little bit away from the normal style that the normal sort of game plan that he follows. But if he does go out there and force it, he'll find sort of gaps in Cannonier's game. So yeah, I don't think there's too much to say about this one, in all honesty. It's all just looking at Izzy and how he performs. And I mean, if Cannonier manages to get a big upset, more power to him.
Yeah, and also like the fact of the matter is there's a gap in the UFC in terms of Khabib's retired. Conor McGregor is, pretty much done at this point. To talk about him coming back, but now just talk about him going and fighting Floyd Mayweather, and that for me is saying that he's done with MMA. John Jones hasn't fought since 2020, so there's a gap to set, for someone to step up and become the biggest star in MMA, and Izzy's the guy for me. It's just the performances you need to be there, and Izzy's a guy capable of doing viral knockouts, and sensational dominant performances. He's capable of it. He's just been taking his foot off the gas, in my opinion. I feel like he's got more to give, and that's the only issue I've got, is that he is, for me, head and shoulders above everyone else in this division, and he hasn't looked it is the problem. So I'm looking forward to seeing if he goes out and makes a statement and potentially sets up, a big fight with the winner of Sean Strickland and Alex Pereira, which we'll get onto later, I'm sure. But yeah, I think he's got 5 rounds. He should be taking Cannonier out, and it's not to say he's not tough, but there is levels, and I just think he's a level or two above. So if he performs the best ability, I think he'll take him out. If he doesn't, I think he'll coast to the decision. He'd have to have a really off night for Cannonier to actually be in the fight and in with actually a shout without actually winning.
Yeah, I do wonder how much of a sort of mental decision it is for him sort of coasting those fights. Because, I mean, do you think it's a case of him almost fighting not to the level of his opposition, but fighting to their level just above it, because he knows he can go that 5 rounds and he knows he can always beat them? Or is it more of like GSP always spoke about fighting safe to win sort of thing, preserving that legacy. How much of a mental thing do you think it is, the way that he's performed over his last 5 fights?
I think it's a choice. I honestly think it's a choice. I think he's choosing to play like that because he doesn't need to do, and he'll still, he can go on and defend the title, another 10 times at this pace and take far less damage than he potentially would by going, all out for it. But there is something to be said about impressive performances, and he might take it, and great fights. They might take some years off your career, or you might lose, but it's I think it's worth the risk to become a star. I think the biggest stars in MMA right now are not people with perfect 20-0 records or unbeaten. The Conor McGregor, the Nate Diaz, the Jorge Masvidal, they've got losses in there, but they go out and they do put on shows. So I think, and he is a showman, Israel Adesanya. So I feel like he just chose that I can point fight these guys, take next to no damage, take no risk of getting taken down and held down like Jan Blachowicz did. And I think he's just coasted as a choice, not because he's fighting down or anything like that. It's just because he can, and he's that good that he can do it. But I don't think that's an excuse. I think he should be going in and really, putting shows on for the fans.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think it probably doesn't help the fact that when he was that sort of young upstart coming up and he was getting the viral KOs and whatnot, he had that sort of cocky attitude where it's, complete self-confidence, and he is a showman, like you say. But he's sort of maintained that attitude, but now it's paired with these like sort of point fighter-esque 5-round fights where it's just a little bit lackluster. And I think the fans, he's starting to lose some of the good grace that he once had from the MMA fans because of that. But either way, I mean, yeah, like you say, he said that he wants to really make a statement in this one. So fingers crossed he can. But I think it's pretty clear that both of us are going to be predicting Israel Adesanya to win this one. Just looking at the odds, minus 365 favorite. To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if that balloons up in the coming week. Co-main event, honestly, could be the main event for me. This is the sort of fight that will be talked about for years and years to come, 100%. The trilogy between Alexander Volkanovski versus Max Holloway. First of all, did you score the second fight for Volk as the judges did, or did you have it for Max?
No, I had it wide. I actually had a 4-1 for Max.
Really?
I was actually working that night for LowKick, and I was in the middle of typing Max, like the headline, Max regains his title, and then the cards come out. So obviously it was about 6 a.m. or something, and I have watched it since, and I still think Max definitely won. You could 3-2 would probably be a fair scorecard, but on the night when I watched it, I thought Max clearly won. And I believe in the fight game there is such a thing as close but clear. And I think he got shafted there, but I expect another fight, like another really close fight again. I expect it to be 5 rounds. And again, we might get a dodgy decision. So for me, it should be 1-1. I think Max won that last fight, but there's no, discredit from Volkanovski. He competed really well. But I just didn't think he won. But he's gone out and he's solidified his reign as champion. But, obviously Ortega if you were going to be comparing these two guys the whole career, but I think Max Holloway did a much better job on Ortega. And then Chan Sung Jung probably is past his best at this point and shouldn't have been really in there. I don't think he was. He earned a title. He just kind of got the title shot. So I don't take too much from that as well. So this is a real test for both guys, and I think either way this goes, it's got to be the last time we see them. I think whoever loses should just step up to lightweight and just, because these fights, they're good, but they're not like necessarily barn burners or anything like that. So I don't think we can do a fourth. It's not Moreno Figgy where they've been absolutely epic fights. They've been really technical and they have been good. But I'm thinking this will be the last one, and hopefully the right person wins.
Yeah. I mean, you got to think Volk will push for a fourth if he loses his title, though. He's just, I think it's that sort of nature that he wants that sort of double champ status and all that. But yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm just going to echo a lot of things you say, really. I scored the first fight 3-2 for Max. Sorry, the second fight 3-2 for Max. So, yeah, sort of in my mind, they should have one fight each, one win each going to this one. But what's interesting is that sort of the downtime since their second fight. They've both fought twice since then, and I mean, I don't know how much you can develop in just two fights, but they're both showing more and more parts of their game that just get me more excited for this fight. I mean, you mentioned both of Volkanovski's fights, Ortega and Korean Zombie. One thing I will note, I think the Ortega that fought Volkanovski was quite a different version of Ortega to the one that fought Holloway. He took a hiatus out himself and came back and really improved on a lot of things. And Volkanovski still dominated him for 4 of 5 rounds. And of course, the Zombie fight was just a mauling. But you got to look at Holloway's 2 performances against Yair and Cater as well. Just absolute maulings. And I don't know. I feel like the pressure he was willing to put on those people, the damage he went through, and now he's mixing takedowns into his game. I believe there was a really nice moment in the Yair fight where I think he clocks on that every time he's throwing a low kick, Yair's throwing one back. So he throws one, knowing that Yair's going to throw it back. As soon as he does, just shoves him in the chest, pushes him to the floor, grinds out the rest of that round on top control, just like dropping heavy ground strikes. So we're seeing more and more stuff in both their games. But I mean, they're both, like you say, with Izzy being the best in his division considerably. These two are the best in their division, and I put them on a sort of similar level, way above everyone else. So every time they fight, if you're going to give a prediction, I feel like you're just going to be sort of speculating rather than anything else, just because how can you pick between these two guys whose skill sets have them so close? If they fought, 10 times, probably win 5 each. Or maybe 6-4 if the judges are being a bit dodgy. It's impossible to call it. But I'm just looking forward to it. The technical prowess both of them possess is something else. And if one of them gets a finish in here, that probably would maybe be that definitive move to cancel out this trilogy and force the loser to move up in weight.
Yeah, I really hope we do get a finish and a decisive end. At least a decisive one, because Volkanovski clearly won that first fight, and I didn't really think there was much need for a rematch when he did it. Holloway was a fairly new champ. I don't think he'd made too many defenses of his title before he lost it. So, but then he did it, and then that decision makes it even more that we need the third fight, but then they delay that. So, I don't really have a pick. I think Max, if he's learned anything, he needs to learn that he can't do what he did to Qatar and Ortega. He can't just let fly on them and just overwhelm them. I think Volkanovski's got too many weapons and he's too smart for that. So he's got to pick his moments and maybe mix new things in and catch him off guard and catch him off guard maybe early as well. I think he dropped him in the first two rounds of the last fight. So maybe I'm sure they've got the game plan and they're working on it, but I don't think typical Max Holloway when he's at his best. I don't think he can ever be at his best against Volkanovski because he's just a tricky guy, and even the height thing, the height doesn't work in Holloway's favor. It seems to work against him because he just out of like able to duck under and get out of the way and do his own thing. So I am expecting another close fight. I'm expecting potentially another dodgy decision, but I hope we don't get that. If you guns in my head, had to make a pick, I'd probably go Holloway because I do think he won the last fight. I do think he won it quite clearly, and I also think the last 2 fights he's probably had the tougher opponents, and he's made it look better. I think Yair Rodriguez is right there. He is a dangerous guy. I think I would have much preferred him to see Yair in with Volkanovski than a Korean zombie. Ortega, he is good, but there is. I think Max really did expose him when they fought, and he come back and he did look good against Zombie, but the same things got exposed again. And Max did not have any issues on the floor either, and Volk did, although he did well to tough it out. So yeah, there really is not much to separate them. I'm just picking things out of thin air, really. But if I had to pick, I'd go Max Holloway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think one thing that's a sort of back up your prediction, because I think I'd probably go with you as well with Max, is the fact that he came out at the start of the rematch against Volk with such a different sort of stance and game plan and style, and then to be fair, credit to Volkanovski, he adapted his style or his game plan approach to the fight mid-fight, and that's how he got those sort of later rounds. Yeah, they're both willing to adapt. I just wonder how they're going to adapt. And the thing that really interests me is how they adapt mid-fight as well, like Volkanovski did last time. But okay, one question. If the fight is to end in a finish, who do you reckon is more likely to pick up the win?
Probably Max. I think we've seen him drop him a couple of times. Volkanovski, although he escaped, he did look vulnerable against Ortega to submissions as well. Max is no slouch on the floor either. So I feel like he has got the more finishing ability. But Volkanovski, Max is one of them guys, he relies on his chin quite a lot. And I do think that's a dangerous thing. Although he can take it, there's just a day, I think, where your brain just says, no, I'm not having this anymore, and just shuts off. So I think that time is coming for Max, but he's only 30 right now. I don't think it's this fight. I think maybe, that down the line, that's something he might need to worry about and change that style of fighting and relying on that chin, which is absolutely epic. But yeah, I think Max has got the tools. I think his pace and how fast he throws things can catch him off guard. Again, he got him with a head kick, I think, last time, which is I don't think Volkanovski is capable of landing the head kick, so that their finishers aren't they as well. He's also got the submission, so yeah. Again, Holloway, if anyone, but I really do see another nip and tuck fight, 5 rounds, 25 minutes, and probably some controversy as well.
All right, yeah, that's a great main and co-main, and the thing is, they don't stop being absolute bangers from this point onwards. Now, I'm just going off Tapology. For some reason, they've got Cerrone versus Miller 2 as the third fight down, but I'm pretty sure it isn't. But should we just have a quick talk about that one first? Because Cerrone stepping in on short notice, was meant to fight last weekend against Joe Lozon. Obviously, Lozon had that bizarre, I can't remember the exact terminology, but his knee locked up, wasn't able to walk, and then some doctor sent him a video, and he did whatever exercises and then unlocked it, and he was fine by the end of the day. Literally asked Sean Shelby or the matchmakers to be put on at the end of the event, like as a sort of post-fight fight. Of course, they rejected it because that's not how the UFC do it. But now Cerrone, still fully fit, stepping in against Jim Miller after Bobby Green has dropped out. Gutted to see Bobby Green step out because he's one of my favorite fighters. But this is a rematch. I don't know how many years in the making at this point, but I mean, you got to back Jim Miller, don't you? I just like the fact that
the first fight. I remember seeing the first fight. I remember watching it.
I'm not sure.
Let's see. Oh yeah, 2014. I remember that. So Donald Cerrone beat him, knocked him out. Yeah, there was a point in time where Jim Miller was the next potential title contender, but then he really, when he started to step up, he got found out a little bit. Benson Henson did a job on him. Nate Diaz did a job on him as well. And then Cerrone got him. I think I would go Jim Miller. I do think Jim Miller is probably... He's got more about him, I think, hasn't he? He's still there. He's still there. He's still competing. He's still beating guys. I love the fact that he's still on the roster as well, because he's taking out all these young up and comers and really testing them. If you get by him and you're an up and comer, that's a really good win on your record, and it shows that you're legit. But if you're not ready, he will find you out. So, but it's nice that he's got another, old school guy. It's nice that he's getting a chance to get that win back. But I think this is make or break for Cerrone, because where else do you go from here? I think if he loses this one, it's probably career over, because how many is it, like 7 on the bounce? And he really needs the win. And this is like all the stuff I was saying about Jim Miller. Then he's great, but he is not anywhere near the top level. He's not near top 15 anymore. So if you want to still be in the UFC, you need to be beating him. And I'm not really sure how it's going to go. I think I'm thinking Miller, but Cerrone in his defense has been fighting really good guys. So this drop down on level, he might feel reinvigorated and show off. But something says Miller for me.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I'm pretty certain about Jim Miller to win this one. To be honest, I'd probably put their sort of level of durability on a sort of similar platform. But I just think Miller is so much more dangerous, especially in those first 2 rounds or first round and a half, maybe. I think he'll finish Cowboy within the first round. He's powerful. If he gets you in the ground, he will lock up those submissions. Cerrone, I was just having a look at his record. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 6 fights without a win, 5 losses, 1 draw, the draw to Nico Price, which he would have lost were it not for the eye poke, I believe. And even though you say he's been fighting elite opposition, last lost the first round KO to Alex Morono. Morono's good, but I wouldn't put him way higher than Jim Miller right now. And Nico Price, similar. Even Pettis, when they fought, it was at the end of Pettis's UFC career. I think he fought once more after that. I just think Cerrone's just come to the end of it, to be honest. The durability's gone. I think even the power's gone, really. He doesn't seem to hit as hard as he used to. And I think Jim Miller's just going to come out there, put it on him, and smoke him within the first round.
Yeah, and Donald Cerrone, he's like a notoriously slow starter. When he gets beat, he does get wiped out sometimes. Gaethje, McGregor, Morono, as you said there. Who else got him early? Back in the day, I think Adesanya's got him early, Till got him early. So he's one of them and Jim Miller, as you say, he comes out like a train. He just comes flying, doesn't he? And he's got the wrestling as well. So I think that threat. I don't know why Cerrone does it, because he talks about it all the time. It's like his nerves, and he doesn't seem to particularly enjoy it. So, it's a good fight though. In terms of we lose Bobby Green, great fight. In steps Cerrone, great fight. I'm glad they didn't rebook that Lozon one, because it's one of them fights where it's kind of cool, but I'm not really that interested. So once it comes off, twice, don't rebook it a third time, because it's just not worth it. And similar when they did that light heavyweight fight between Kutalaba and Ankalaev. So they just kept rebooking it, but no one was really that interested. And eventually they got it over the line, but it was very clear Ankalaev was head and shoulders above him. So I don't know why they wasted so much time on that either, but that's another story.
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, with Tapology having it so high, I don't know where the fight is actually going to be placed, but it's one worth having a quick chat about, because you got to love a good veteran clash. But let's talk about Sean Strickland versus Alex Pereira. I don't know if Dana White has sort of officially stated it as a number 1 contender bout, but it definitely will be for Pereira at least. I'm not probably for Strickland as well, to be honest, just because of the lack of contenders at middleweight right now. I mean, weird fight. You got a 25-3 veteran who's been in the UFC for for years now, on a good winning streak. Wins over like fellow sort of contenders like Hermanson, Uriah Hall. Coming up against a guy with a 5-1 record, with only 2 wins in the UFC. It's bizarre. Obviously, we know the reason why. The UFC won the book. Alex Pereira versus Israel Adesanya. Pereira is the I don't know if he's the only man to knock Izzy out. I think he might be. But back in the kickboxing days, Pereira knocked him out once, and I think also beat him by decision. So there's that history there. There's a story. I guess they know that if they put a kickboxing bloke knockout artist like Pereira in there with Izzy, it'll probably force an exciting fight out of him. But I do think Sean Strickland's a weird choice to put him against, because I don't know. I looking at the odds, Pereira is actually the favorite, which I think is pretty mad. Only just, but I mean, if Strickland chooses to go to the wrestling, he's known as a striker. He's got that sort of like that lead jab that you can just piece people up for. But if he goes to the wrestling, starts bringing it to the ground, he's a very strong fighter. You see him in there when he's defending takedowns. Really, really strong, really good base. I'm sure he could just grind it out. Maybe even start looking for submissions. He's got submission finishes on his UFC record. A couple of rear naked chokes, I think. So, yeah, I think it's a weird fight, and I'm surprised the odds are what they are. I don't know. Do you think I'm well off with that one? Who are you backing?
I'm backing Strickland all day. I think it's as easy as he wants to make it, because Alex Pereira, he's an impressive striker, but as you say, he's 5-6 fights into his career.
Yeah.
There's a very clear way to just go and beat him, and you just need to take him down, which is obviously easier said than done, but I don't think it's going to be that hard. You know, Sean's been at this his whole career, and on the feet, it probably is it's a pick and fight, and you Pereira, in terms of anyone's going to knock anyone out, Pereira will be the guy getting that knockout. So just lean on what your opponent's weakness, go to that. I think Strickland should just be shooting. Obviously set it up with a few, punches, entertain the striking for a minute or so, dive for his legs and get that takedown. I don't think someone like Sean Strickland should have too much problem getting him down unless Pereira's come on like leaps and bounds. But I think it's a very deserved number one contenders fight. Obviously, Pereira hasn't earned his shot, but his last win over Bruno Silva is a very, good win. Silva being, he beat a few decent guys. No one, no world beaters, but he got a few good wins, and he has got that history with Izzy. So what are you going to do? He's already, it's like when Brock Lesnar comes over, you're going to make Brock Lesnar go through, the ranks, or you're just going to give him, some big fights. So I get what they're doing. And if Alex Pereira gets past Sean Strickland, he absolutely deserves a title shot. And if Sean Strickland wins this one, because he was pretty close with that Jack Hermanson win, he just didn't particularly impress. Like, it was between him and Cannonier got the finish, and Sean Strickland probably could have got the finish. He was clearly better than Hermanson. He just chose to coast. And as we said, we don't like coasting. So he didn't get it. And this one should set him up now. But I think whoever wins, it's a win-win for the UFC, because Sean Strickland's, obviously one of the craziest guys on the roster. He's got him and Izzy are going to go to war before the fight. And then the fight itself is quite a technical, interesting battle. And Alex Pereira, the fight itself, if he goes out, knocks out Sean Strickland, gets on the mic, says, Izzy, I'm going to knock you out again, I think that's another big fight. So, a really good fight. But I think Strickland really should be winning this. And as long as he's not stupid, he will win. Yeah,
I agree. Sean Strickland, one of the most sort of contrasting personalities and fight styles in the game right now. I think Strickland should win, and I'm very surprised he's still an underdog right now. UFC love throwing O'Malley as the sort of main card opener.
They love O'Malley, and he's just signing a contract, so you'd think they want the money out of him. Yeah, but it's a great fight nonetheless. Like, really is a step up. I know Pedro has struggled against the elite, but I think this is a proper step up. I know last time out, O'Malley against Paiva was billed as like, oh, it's a ranked opponent, but when you look at it, Paiva was very lucky to get that win over Kyler Phillips that got him ranked. So I didn't read too much into win, and he did what I expected him to do. But this is Pedro. He throws hard. He's good with his legs, good at kicking, and we've seen O'Malley's had that vulnerability. So, lots to look out for. But if O'Malley's the guy, and he's going to be the guy, he should be going out and dominating. And if he gets a finish, that would just be so huge, because Aldo went 3 rounds with Pedro, so did Dominic Cruz. Aljamain Sterling went 3 rounds with him as well. So that to go out and get a finish you would really put O'Malley in the mix and make him more than just a wacky character, and he'd be a true contender.
Yeah. It's an interesting fight, though, isn't it? I mean, like, one of Munoz's best tools is that low calf kick that he just absolutely loves to throw, and throws it with so much power and venom. And of course, the one loss on O'Malley's record is the loss to Chito Vera. Vera's main sort of tool in that fight was the calf kick, which ultimately ended in the TKO loss. And then again, like you say, it would be great for O'Malley to get a finish here, even though Munoz is 1-4 in his last 5. Every single fight goes to the decision. Like, is it Sterling, Edgar, Rivera, Aldo, and Cruz? None of them able to finish him. He's a durable guy. And yeah, and like with the Piver thing you were saying, I mean, by the time fight week actually came about, Piver wasn't even in the rankings anymore. He'd fallen out during the build up to the fight, which it just sort of shows that it was just to say that he'd fought someone who was once ranked. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because Munoz is 35 now. O'Malley in his prime of his career, 27. I'm looking at it. I don't know which way to go. I feel like you should be backing O'Malley, but almost like this weekend's fight, you got or this weekend passed, because we're recording this before, but Shavkat Rakhmonov is going to take on Neil Magny. It's a similar one to that, where this is where you see what these guys are really about, if this prospect is all that he's hyped up to be. Yeah, I think I'll back O'Malley, and probably to finish it late in the fight, just because he is so powerful. And even if it's a sort of Chris Moutinho-esque finish where he's just pieced his Munoz up so much, he's got his face bloody and battered, and the ref is forced to step in with like a standing TKO or something like that, I think I would sort of go down that route. But I mean, Munoz, especially a plus 200 underdog status, I mean, he's live to get a win here, 100%.
Yeah, and O'Malley's one of them guys who's so tough to like gauge how actually good he is, because his level of opponents has just been way off. Like, and Eddie Wineland, has been done for a while. Thomas Almeida, he was coming off a lengthy layoff as well, I think. Moutinho was a newcomer. Piver was, a good opponent, but not necessarily the jump up. And then the only time he has jumped up, he's been wiped out in a round, but then there's that asterisk on it as well about his leg. So I don't know how good he is, and this is a true test, and this will tell you how good he is. I actually think Pedro might, come in too aggressive and potentially get caught with something. And that's how I can see O'Malley getting a knockout, or doing what you said and just piecing him up and stopping it late. But then at the same time, there's been a couple of occasions where O'Malley doesn't look like he enjoys getting, taking it. He doesn't like getting the punishment. And even in what fight was it? Was it in the UFC debut or the one after? But he hurt his leg in that as well, and he was lying on the floor, crying in pain. So, and whatever, unless he knocks him out with an early exchange, I think Pedro's going to put it on him, and he's going to make him feel a bit of pain. So it just depends about his durability as well. So we're going to learn a lot about O'Malley. Win or lose in this one, I think we'll know if he's actually legit, once and for all. I do give the edge to him. I just think he is, he is quite impressive, and even as just his stature, he's got so much physical advantages on these 135ers, and it's just been disappointing. It's taken till now that we don't know. Like, he's a huge star, and we don't know if he's good, because I always mention it, especially on this podcast, that 135 division is so stacked. There's 30 guys who I could And there's so many guys, talking about the English guys, Jack Shaw, Nathaniel Wood. If he beat Nathaniel Wood, I'd be able to say, okay, well, I can gauge how good he is because he's been beating guys who he really shouldn't have been fighting. I don't know how good he is. So excited to find out. I am going to give the edge to O'Malley, but again, not putting big money on it. If I was going to bet on this fight, I'd actually be betting on Munoz just because for the value of it. And I think he is very much capable of springing upsets. I don't think he's looked, overawed in any of his fights. Aldo, all these fights that he's lost, I think he'd be Frankie Edgar in my opinion. So all these fights he's lost, he still looked very competitive and he's been, top guys. So Pedro could cause an upset, but I'm going on Mali. I always like to back the young guy, and I think he might be able to pull something off. And if he gets a knockout, that's just he's on to a winner then.
Yeah, definitely. Especially, I just looked at Pedro's record. Then, never been finished in his whole career. So that's a big feather to put in your cap if you can be the first guy to finish such a veteran like Munoz. I mean, that's the main card and the feature prelim. Looking at the rest of the card, Jordan, are there any fights that spring out to you? Most of them spring out, but in particular, which are you looking forward to?
Obviously, we've got Brad Riddell's a really fun fighter, and Jalen Turner's really, turning it on lately as well. So, I think Jalen Turner is one of them guys, 27 now, and he seems to just be making his run. Jay Malachi, Medic, and I feel like he's gathering pace, and I feel like Riddell would just be another great name on his record as well. And then before that, we've got Robbie Lawler against Brian Barberino, which that's just going to be fireworks. And these are the fights we want to see. For such a long time, we've been so intent on matching the old guys with the new guys and building these new guys off the old guys' name, but they're not the fights you should be doing with them. You should be doing fights like this where it's guaranteed fun. And they did it last time with Nick Diaz, and that was fun while it lasted as well. So excited to see that. And then obviously Ian Gary again. Really good prospect. And we've seen him come through Cage Warriors, and he's looked okay so far in the UFC. And I think if he can go out and make a statement against Gabe Green, who I'm not overly familiar with, but he's
good. That's the thing. Gabe Green is a good fighter. This is like a tough test for Ian Gary, where he does actually have to step up a bit. I had my eye on him. Because he fought Phil Rowe to a decision, and then there was that fight against the Dana White Contender Series guy, Johan, I don't know how to pronounce his surname, Lyon, something like that, where he looked incredible, really, really nice boxing, and sort of a strong physical fighter. So Gary really has to be on the top of his game in this one. But I keep saying this, but alluding to what you just said, this is the sort of fight because it essentially is two prospects. Gabe Green doesn't have the same sort of star power around his name, but he is an upcoming prospect. He's a guy who could go quite far. So I'd much rather see him paired up with Ian Gary, and then just above them you've got Lawler versus Barberena. Just cracking matchmaking. And I do think Gary versus Green has got potential to be a really, really good one.
Yeah, and also Gary, he has got that superstar potential. I know it hasn't quite gone over with the American fans yet, but I feel like again he's physically looks brilliant. He's huge at welterweight. So from what I've seen, he's got a bit of everything. He doesn't seem to lack much at all. So and he's out there training with the best in the world in Florida. So it's just he's doing everything right, and he seems to be living the life. And it just seems inevitable at the minute. But Gabe Green is the guy who could potentially be a spanner in the works, and just because even if Ian does lose this fight, it doesn't mean he's not going to go on and become a huge success. It just there is bumps in the roads for everyone, so this might be it. But then if he passes, he might propel him towards them rankings as well by the end of the year. I think Ian is someone who's very. When I spoke to him previously, he's very happy to take his time. He knows that he is a work in progress, and he's not in a rush, towards that title. So, a fight like this is perfect at this point in time, and just another great fight on this card. So, and I think that is, they're the ones that really stand out. Obviously, before that, we've got Jessica Eye, Macy Barber. Macy's starting to put it back together. I think she looked quite decent in the last fight, and she's only 24 years old, so I expect her to go out and make a statement and beat Jessica, who hasn't really looked the same since getting knocked out by Valentina Shevchenko. I think Macy was really one of the most exciting prospects on the roster. Got that injury, took a couple losses. Probably was she actually was very lucky to beat Miranda Maverick, but last time out, there was no doubt about it. I think against Dara Rosa, she did really well. So, excited to see if she can get back on track. And then on the early prelims, you've got Uriah Hall against Andre Muniz, which
ridiculous.
is ridiculous. Yeah, ridiculous. And I'm really hoping Muniz. I really do like Muniz, and I'm not particularly a fan of Uriah Hall. So, I'm not like, it's not a personal thing. It's just more his style. I don't like his style. He's got all the potential in the world. He doesn't let his hand go. Doesn't seem to like fighting. Muniz is this absolute savage. So, who was his last fight?
The Jacare, wasn't it? Oh, Eric Anders before that Jacare,
got him. So, and he's really putting it together. So I think Uriah Hall would just be a really, nice feather in the cap for him to, really make himself a contender.
Definitely.
But really, just such a stack card, top to bottom, and we get these, don't we? I think is it International Fight Week, the week this happened. Oh, I didn't even mention Duplessis as well.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. You scroll down this card looking at the prelims, being like, oh, that one stands out. That one stands out. Suddenly you've got fucking Brad Tavares versus Justus Duplessis, which is, another absolute banger. Duplessis has sort of become an instant fan favorite as soon as he came to the UFC with just like brutal back-to-back knockouts. And obviously Tavares is a veteran of the division who's putting some wins back together. So, and then before that, you've got Jessica Rose Clark opening the card, who she looked pretty poor in her last fight, to be honest, but she's a sort of semi-fan favorite as well to some extent against Julia Storyalenko. I think that's probably meant to be a bit of a layup fight for Jessica Rose Clark, who's she's coming off a loss, but Storyalenko is coming off 3 in a row. But it's just a banging card, isn't it? You really can't complain. I mean, people say all the time, oh, this is the card of the year. This one actually is a card of the year. Just on name value alone, it's something special. And if you look at how people are talking about UFC Austin, Texas, the other weekend, people saying, "Oh, the name value is amazing. Will it live up to the sort of potential?" And it did. And fingers crossed, we get that again, because this is sensational matchmaking, and just so happy that we're going to be able to watch all these incredible fights.
Yeah, and we skimmed over him there, but Duplessis really is one of my favorite fighters. He's doing recently. I like the way he speaks, I like the accent, I like the way he fights. He's just a savage. He's just a savage. So I'm really excited to see him. And them two fights on the early prelims, I like pretty much. I'm not sure I'm sure Uriah Hall and Muniz are ranked. Brad Tavares might be ranked as well. So I'm pretty sure he is as well. So these are ranked guys. These are really big fights opening the card, like super early, So just huge, and it just goes from there. This is one of them cards, there is some where you just think, I'll tune into the prelims, or I might not even tune into the main card. But there's one of them, pretty much first, second fight, you need to be watching this because you're gonna miss something. You're gonna miss something big and the big fights. And according to Wikipedia, which is what I'm looking at, Jim Miller, Donald Cerrone is the third fight on the early prelims as well. So just in terms of name value, just huge card, and really looking forward to it. I really am looking forward to this one.
And you're right. Tavares is ranked 12th right now. Moon is 13th. Hall is 9th. And 3 of those on the early prelims. Absolutely insane. But I think that sort of wraps up for this one. It's been a bit of a long episode, but I feel like you need a long episode for a card like this. Been an absolute blast having you back, Jordan. Back in your own stomping grounds. Thank you so much for coming on.
No, it's been nice. I've missed these, just having a platform to verbalize me nonsense on fights. I don't really, obviously I always did these for fun, and I do think it's fun just talking rubbish about the fights, and I don't necessarily think I have any right to be calling these fights either way, and they're all really tight, and anything I've said it's just personal opinion. So and I don't think I'll be putting too much money on any of my picks either, because all these fights are really, really, like, I honestly do not have a clue. But if you're gonna ask me, I'm gonna give you answers. So yeah, it's been great, and I just can't wait for this one. Absolute banger.
100%. All right. Thank you to anyone who's been watching. Yeah, go subscribe to the platform, go follow Jordan on his socials, and go catch his stuff on TalkSport. Thank you for watching and enjoy the fights.
Thanks, guys.
Make sure to subscribe to the LowKick MMA YouTube channel for all the latest news, event previews, and interviews with some of the biggest stars in MMA.